Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online series 13 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. I'm playing a couple more games with the Gen 5 only team that I featured in the previous episode, which I've linked down in the description below. It's a really fun team that features the triple dragons in Zekrom, Reshiram, and Kyurem-White, as well as Victini, GENESECT, and Whimsicott. And GENESECT ends up making a pretty big appearance in the second game of today's episode, and so if you want to see that, timestamped in the description below, but as always, all the games are pretty exciting. So thanks so much as always for watching Road to Ranked. If you enjoy, please show your support by leaving a like, and question of the day, I want to know what Gen 5 Pokemon you think deserves an evolution down in the comment section below. Let's get started. Okay, for this one we've got Kyogre, Groudon, Zacian, Calyrex, the Tornadus, and then Zekrom. So they obviously have a pretty good speed advantage with Tornadus. We don't have any ghost resistances either, so Calyrex Shadow Rider is fairly scary. Kyurem's amazing here if they didn't have Zacian, but something like Tornadus Zacian just gives me a lot of trouble immediately. I honestly want to go the Trick Room route with Victini. I could see them leading like Calyrex Zacian though, which would be a problem if I led Victini. Whimsicott has Charm, which at least helps out against Zacian, but still kind of tough. Reshiram could be a good Dynamax option here, actually. It's really good into everything other than the Groudon and kind of the Zekrom. Like, I say kind of because against Zekrom, at least I can max Warmwind it, which is super effective and decreases its attack. So the question is, like, what type of speed control do I want to commit to here? Honestly, I think Tailwind might, or sorry, Trick Room might be the better route because they have their own Tornadus. I just don't know if I can actually get it up that easily. I don't know, like, if I were them, I'd maybe consider leading Calyrex. Calyrex Tornadus as a lead makes sense from their end. Okay, I'm actually going to go the Whimsicott plus the Triple Dragons here. Basically, the logic is that if they go with Tornadus Calyrex, Kyurem's super good into that. If they go with Zacian, at least I could go for something like Protect plus Charm on turn 1, and then like Dynamax Charm again on turn 2. Get them to -3 attack. Or I could consider switching Kyurem out into Zekrom, for example, to resist the Behemoth Blade. But if they don't lead Zacian immediately, Kyurem will be in a decent position. And they go Tornadus Groudon. Okay. I mean, I'm honestly very happy to see that as a Kyurem player. So, like, the Groudon slot's very awkward right now, I would say. It's not Choice Scarf. We outspeed it, given our ability. I don't know. Like, what are they going to go for turn 1? They could Tailwind with Tornadus. I honestly don't think I need to even Dynamax here, to be honest. Like, I could go for Charm. I guess, like, I don't want to just click Blizzard here immediately. Okay, you know what? I'm down for Charm, Max, and then just Hailstorm into Tornadus. Now, normally I wouldn't advise KOing Tornadus, like, as early on as I'm trying to accomplish here, but the logic is that with Kyurem, we're just trying to pick up as many knockouts as possible in a short amount of time. The other thing is that I have Charm, right? And so Charm's really good into a couple of my opponent's attackers. Kyurem actually walls like the Kyogre decently well. Calyrex isn't that strong into it. It's mainly the Zacian that gives me problems. The other thing is that I eliminate Tornadus immediately, and it also gives me the ability to set up Tailwind like at 1 turn later with Whimsicott. Now this is interesting. Whimsicott goes before Tornadus, so I think Tornadus is probably clicking Icy Wind here. Oh, it's so slow. It's slower than Kyurem. Okay, are you sashed here? It wasn't sashed either. It's probably really bulky Tornadus. Sash is probably on the Calyrex Shadow Rider, but now they don't even get Tailwind up. Although this means like Blizzard, if we had hit, would have been amazing, but I'm not risking 70% accuracy this early on in the game. They go for Precipice Blades. Whimsicott dodges it, hits Kyurem for not too much damage. Okay. Well, that was definitely not a bad turn 1, because now they just straight up don't get speed control. I think what my opponent was probably expecting was me clicking Tailwind and then Hailstorming maybe into Groudon, and they were probably trying to Icy Wind, bring out Zacian, and then Tailwind the next turn. I think the Kyurem lead here was honestly just super strong into what they brought. And it was kind of a call-out that I didn't think they would lead Zacian into the team composition that I have, because I've got Reshiram as well as Victini. And so that gamble kind of paid off. So now they can bring out Zacian, to which I could just set up Tailwind with Whimsicott. Like, Groudon just does very little damage. It's not really a great candidate to Dynamax either. I think the main debate is if Zacian comes in here, like, is Groudon going to switch out? But it's actually Calyrex. Okay. This is slightly awkward because I do not have an attacking move on the Whimsicott. I think Groudon here most likely switches out, and I could see them actually trying to Trick Room here, expecting me to Tailwind. So honestly, I'm down in Charm into the Groudon slot here because it covers for a Zacian switch in, and then Hailstorm into the Calyrex, which will KO it even with Focus Sash. Yep, Groudon switches. I expect Zacian here, but it's going to be Zacian. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I think, like, my opponent's probably hoping for me to Tailwind here, and then they try to set up Trick Room, right? But the thing is, if they try to click Trick Room here, we should just actually win the game after this turn, because Zacian's now at -1, and I'll be able to set up Tailwind next turn. But they actually just Astral Barrage, okay. Part of the reason why I felt confident with this play, though, is because I know the Whimsicott's bulky. If we weren't bulky Whimsicott, it would actually be really interesting, right? Because I would essentially trade Whimsicott for Calyrex, and that trade's not necessarily worth it without clicking Tailwind. But basically there, I didn't want to commit to Trick Room quite yet, because if they do indeed click Trick Room there and I click Tailwind, Zacian plus Dynamax Groudon can completely sweep me, alright? Because at that point, then everything on their team will outpace me, and that's a really big problem. But now, I can just safely set up Tailwind this next turn with very little consequence. They're also going to set up the Sun, right? And so I can actually just Max Flare into the Zacian slot. Don't really know the item on Groudon. Like, Tailwind plus Hailstorm on a Groudon, honestly, I think is also acceptable here. What's awkward for them is, like, I have Charm here, right? So, but can you ignore the Kyurem slot? Because Kyurem's just outputting, so much damage right now. I have Zekrom and Reshiram in the back, so it actually means my damage output into Groudon's fairly lacking here. I think I'm down to just Tailwind and Flare here. Yeah, because, like, the thing is, yes, my damage into Groudon's lacking, but their damage is also not going to be amazing. I don't know. It was tempting to just go for the Hailstorm on a Groudon and Tailwind because, like, Groudon being Assault Vest here is fairly likely. But basically what I want to do is turn this battle into, like, a 2v1 or a 3v1. And the idea is the quicker I knock out Zacian, right? Even if it protects this turn, that's fine. I can bring out something like Reshiram, then go for Charm onto Groudon, and then just target this Zacian slot. And they're not going to protect. Beautiful. And this is, like, the problem here is if I don't, target the Zacian slot, then the mind games become interesting because, yeah, I get a Hailstorm off into the Groudon slot, but then where do I go from there? It's not going to KO, especially if they have Assault Vest, and then Zacian has the ability to protect in subsequent turns, and I can't protect with either the Zekrom or the Reshiram in the back. They actually go for Phantasm. Interesting. Okay, on to the Whimsicott slot. That makes sense. The idea of going for Phantasm there is you get a defense drop, you cover for switch-ins as well. The defense drop meaning, like, now, yeah, Kyurem's just more vulnerable. Yeah, I mean, it's a 3v1, but it's certainly not over. I think we conserve Choice Band Zekrom for the end, so I'll bring out Reshiram here. The question is, like, can I win this game without relying on Blizzard? I might have to click Blizzard, which is kind of nerve-wracking, honestly. Given that they have Phantasm, I'm, like, 90% sure they're Assault Vest. It's kind of rare to fit Shadow Claw into a moveset like that otherwise. And then the other question is, like, yeah, do I go for inaccurate attacks right now? Because, of course, I could go for, like, Dragon Pulse. But I actually think we might need a little bit of extra damage output. I'll go for Fusion Flare here. I don't want to click Draco Meteor yet. I ideally click it next turn, right? Okay. I'm willing to Fusion Flare here. I don't want a Draco. Like, I could double Fusion Flare, but Blizzard just does so much damage, and I'm willing to go for it here. Okay, and we hit the single target Blizzard. Nice. That should secure the game. But it was a little bit scary since, like, I do have a fair amount of inaccurate attacks between the Reshiram, the Kyurem, and the Zekrom. But, yeah, that's enough. The scary thing is if I miss that and they target Max Quake onto the Kyurem slot and they get a KO, as they're doing here, then it's like I would have only gotten maybe 20-25% of damage onto the Groudon slot. Honestly, Draco Meteor may have been more consistent there rather than Blizzard. But I figured Blizzard, if I hit there, just immediately win the game. And that is basically the case here. Like, Groudon's not necessarily the easiest matchup because ground type attacks in general are just scary, but I think the main thing here is that I just had a strong lead. Tornadus Zacian would have given me a lot more trouble, but I just didn't think they'd lead that when I had potentially Reshiram and Victini. So, yeah, we can just Fusion Flare and Dragon Claw now. But this is Kyurem putting in a clinic in this one, I'd say. And I think one of the nice things about Kyurem in this format is that there's so many Focus Sashes, whether it be on Whimsicott, Calyrex Shadow Rider, Tornadus, for example. And so what the cool thing is with Hailstorm, like, you can one-shot those Pokemon even with Focus Sash, right? Most of the Pokemon using Focus Sash in this format also are not going to take a Life Orb Max Hailstorm super well when not Dynamaxed. So yeah, this was just Kyurem demonstrating how strong it could potentially be here. And yeah, the thing about using Kyurem is that you're not going to have the best Zacian matchup all the time, right? So this was us kind of making an educated guess, hoping they wouldn't lead Zacian, and that very much was the case. But I think if this were a best of 3, the adjustment my opponent could very easily make is Tornadus Zacian, and then so I'd have to adjust accordingly. Then I could maybe swap out Kyurem for Reshiram, for example, and lead like Whimsicott Reshiram or even Victini Reshiram. But I didn't love the Victini leads in this game because there's potential Taunt on Tornadus, and then there's also potential Calyrex Shadow Rider. Also, I think my opponent just really hurt themselves by not going for Tailwind immediately with Tornadus, because if they had set up Tailwind, then Zacian comes out, it's like infinitely more impressive. But by not clicking Speed Control, or by not clicking Tailwind, if I had to guess, they were going for Icy Wind on turn 1, maybe Air Slash / Hurricane. But the idea is by not clicking Tailwind immediately, I get to punish them super heavily, and I just had full speed control basically afterwards. So yeah. Next match here, and we are up against Zacian, Whimsicott, Regieleki, Yveltal, Kyogre, and Groudon. This is nothing too crazy. I mean, I think actually very interesting. VGC Paste, which is an awesome resource for VGC teams. I often get a lot of my rentals from there. Recently, like, reconstructed the top 6 most used Pokemon and sets that I had between Series 12 and 13. And I think it's exactly these same 6 Pokemon. So I wonder if it's actually just that rental code. If so, that's really funny. Actually, no. There was Incineroar over Whimsicott on that team, so it's not the exact one. But yeah. No surprise that those Pokemon dominated in terms of Series 12 and Series 13 usage. This feels like a Kyurem game, but very much like the last game, I have to worry about Zacian. This one is interesting. Like, Victini, if it can get Trick Room up, would be amazing. Also, no lie, like, I haven't really brought Genesect out with this team. I'd love to give it a shot. I actually think it could be fairly interesting here. I really want to set up Trick Room ideally, I think. Okay. Victini. Honestly, I'm going to lead Genesect here. I just want to try these Pokemon out. I don't know. Like, I don't think this is the best approach, but I think it's cool. I'll cure him in the back. I have no idea who I'm Dynamaxing right now. I think, like, by taking this line in Team Preview, it's really inconsistent, because if I don't get Trick Room up, my opponent can just run me over with Tailwind, potentially with Whimsicott. And they naturally outspeed most of our Pokemon as well. So, our work is definitely cut out for us, but I don't know. 1, I haven't been able to set up Trick Room with Victini too much, and 2, Genesect hasn't really made an appearance, so I want to give both a shot. I'm going to go with Zacian and Yveltal. Okay. Whimsicott Genesect would have been pretty strong here. So let's see first what boost Genesect gets. Dark Aura. We're going to get a download boost. It's going to be attack. Okay, attack. I think, like, basically if you're my opponent, you're probably looking towards doubling up onto the Victini slot. This could have Heat Wave, though, which would make me so sad. Because, like, I could Trick Room here, right? Like, the play I'm leaning towards is Trick Room, Dynamax, and Steel Spike onto the Yveltal slot. I'm not gonna give it a shot. Okay, they're not Dynamaxing, which I think is good news. You know what would make me very happy if Yveltal tried to go for, like, Sucker Punch on a Victini, expecting Final Gambit? Because that actually is, if you haven't seen this team, Final Gambit's something you gotta be worried about, right? Which would make us, put us into a really good spot with this turn. Oh, that also works. Nice. Okay, we get to Dynamax Genesect. This guarantees us Trick Room as well. Let's go. Okay, nice. Now we're talking. So Genesect gets a +1 max Steel Spike into the Yveltal slot, which gives me a defense boost. It almost KOs Yveltal, just falls short of the KO. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a Focus Sash on that anyway, though. Amazing. And now I get Trick Room up. So maybe they Sucker Punch the Victini slot here. That's a possibility. I could pretty easily go for Helping Hand plus max Steel Spike. I could go for V-Create onto Zacian. I'd At this point, we're really trying to cover for our opponent's switches, in my opinion. Also, like, Victini can be used for a very powerful V-Create. Okay, I think here I'm down for Helping Hand plus Steel Spike into Zacian. I guess Zacian could switch into, like, Kyogre here, though, which would be a problem. It's a shame we didn't get a one-hit knockout onto Yveltal, even with the download boost. Okay, they are going to switch. Let's see what comes in. Okay, it's Whimsicott. That's fine. I'm mainly curious also between these two Pokemon, like, which one is carrying a potential Focus Sash. No Sucker Punch from Yveltal, so could have maybe gotten a knockout there. Because I think, like, with this lead, it could either be Whimsicott or Yveltal carrying Focus Sash, and it looks like Whimsicott did just get one shot there, so Yveltal is most likely the one running it. I'm at +2 defense. Maybe they have Dark Pulse here, though. Like, it could be Tailwind, Dark Pulse, Oblivion, Wing Foul Play. Or Snarl. And there's Dark Pulse, yeah. The question then is, are you running Dark Pulse and Sucker Punch? Could be the case. Zacian just comes back out. Yep, that's fine. Okay. So it's also a question of who their final Pokemon is, because that's what's going to Dynamax, right? I'm at +1 attack. I think Zacian protecting here feels fairly obvious. I'm down to V-Create Zacian here and just Steel Spike into Yveltal. Oh, you know what? I could Hailstorm, because then that sets up Kyurem for Blizzard. No, but then if Groudon or Kyogre is in the back, it doesn't make a difference. So I think Steel Spike's fine. Even if Zacian attacks here, that's fine. I don't really care about it. Because what, you're going to Behemoth Blade into Genesect? Like, sure. Yveltal switches, though. That's awesome. It's Kyogre as their last one. Okay. That will allow Zacian to better take this hit, though, which is kind of concerning. And I am running out of turns of Trick Room as well, so I have to be very careful about that. Oh, they actually have Quick Attack. Okay, that is not ideal. Because I think Helping Hand plus Steel Spike probably would have just KO'd Zacian, but this is still a +1 Steel Spike into Kyogre. Let's pre-Dynamax. That's a lot of damage. And I'm at +3 defense, so like Zacian isn't really scaring Genesect right now. It's a pretty free switching into Zekrom, I think. Yeah. I think we're mainly just worried about like a couple of double protects from my opponent at this point, like if they get consecutive protects, but I'm just happy to have had a game with Dynamax Genesect. And I don't think the survival in Yveltal earlier mattered because I think it has Focus Sash if it's running Tailwind like that. So let's double check the board state. My opponent hasn't Dynamax yet. It's the last turn of Tailwind. There's still 2 turns of Trick Room. Choice Band Bolt Strike here is very powerful. I think Kyogre being Assault Vested makes a lot of sense. If I were them, I'd actually probably switch Kyogre out into Yveltal and then play Rough into Zekrom. Got Leech Life here. This turn's kind of tough, actually. Alright, I'm doubling up on a Zacian. Try to KO that. Yep, Kyogre switches. Nice. If Zacian attacks here, I think we should win the game, assuming it's Assault Vest Kyogre. Oh, I still need to hit my attack, I suppose. Which is a little scary. Beautiful. Okay, they don't go for a Protect, so I think they're going for the Play Rough play. Bolt Strike connects. I think Fusion Bolt was stronger there than Bolt Strike. I'm not stronger in terms of strength. It does concern me slightly, like, even with such a good, like, lead and first couple of turns, like, very easily could have lost this game from that turn. I suppose if Kyogre is also slower than us, now that Tailwind's over, that would be a problem. How fast? Like, we don't really have speed investment on either of these. 126, 119. Yeah, I expect outspeed here. And I expect it to be Assault Vest Kyogre as well, but it was kind of a bad play on my end to lock myself into Bolt Strike. I should have clicked Fusion Bolt there. That was actually a pretty bad oversight on my end, because it's like, the odds of missing one of 285% attacks is actually not terribly slim. Alright, I'll just Techno Blast here into Yveltal. I actually, if I had to guess, neither of these Pokemon are carrying Protect. Yveltal probably more likely to run it. Like, this feels like it should be a win, right? But my opponent hasn't Dynamax yet. And so let's say they have Protect on Yveltal. I don't get an attack off into that slot. I probably should have just targeted Kyogre. Oh, they didn't Dynamax with either Pokemon. That's interesting. You know, that makes sense, though, because I think you're playing for a miss here anyway, so you might as well get an extra turn of max. But Zekrom is going to connect on Bolt Strike, yeah. Bolt Strike wasn't worth it here in the end, though, because, like, well, I guess the logic was I targeted Zacian, so the idea was maybe I can get a one-hit knockout onto it just with Bolt Strike alone, but I doubled up into that slot anyway because I wasn't confident I would get the one-hit knockout. So, yeah, I think Fusion Bolt just would have been better there. We were lucky in the end we didn't miss, but I'm just happy I got to get Victini and Genesect out in a game and then also Dynamax the Genesect, because that's what I was looking for here. So, I don't think it was the most consistent, four to bring here, but we're here for content. Mentor on Whimsicott, Dazzling, Protect, Cotton Spore, Encore, very interesting. Life Orb on Regieleki, this is physical, yep, Admit Max. Oblivion Wing, Foul Play, Dark Pulse, Tailwind, so yeah, they did not have Sucker Punch on the Yveltal here. Choice Specs on the Kyogre, so it wasn't Assault Vest, but that explains the lack of Protect. Also the lack of Dynamax, Weakness Policy on Groudon, and then Zacian. So yeah, though, I think like the clear Dynamax option to me on their team is Groudon, but like Kyogre, Yveltal, Aleki could flex it. I mean, Aleki actually, sorry, is the other clear Dynamax option, but they didn't bring it in that matchup. So, yeah. All right, let's keep things going. Okay, we've got Magearna, Calyrex, Incineroar, Yveltal, Kyogre, and Indeedee for this one. This feels like one of the earlier Series 13 teams, you know, with Magearna and Calyrex, both which can snowball really heavily. Honestly, I think this is another Genesect game, no lie, because, like, it can max Bug to decrease my opponent's special attack, and can also max Steel Spike. I think this is almost as good of a Genesect matchup as we'll get, honestly. They don't have any electric resistances or immunity, so I think like Genesect Zekrom feel really powerful here. Whimsicott would be really good for Calyrex Ice Rider with Charm, but it runs into two issues: Psychic Terrain blocking Charm, because Charm is coming from Prankster, or the Calyrex having White Herb. Another lead that concerns me is probably Indeedee Kyogre. I'm down for Whimsicott plus Genesect, Zekrom, and then I don't think we bring Kyurem here. It's pretty bad into Magearna, Calyrex. Reshram's like decent into those. Victini's the other consideration. I think Reshram might be a little bit better here, but the argument for Victini is that if they set up Trick Room, well, I would expect Magearna and Calyrex to be faster than us anyway, under Trick Room. So then, actually, the argument becomes like Victini could reverse Trick Room, which is interesting. But either way, I'm just thrilled to get an episode with two Genesect games. Even if we lose this one, like, I'm okay with that. It's going to be Indeedee Magearna. So this is actually where Victini Genesect would have been really interesting, because I could have gone for a Helping Hand, for example. Like, Whimsicott is actually completely useless here. But I led Whimsicott to cover for them potentially leading stuff like Kyogre, for example. I think the lack of Whimsicott having an offensive attack here is actually a big problem, though. And what I'm worried about is, like, they have a way to self-activate Weakness Policy, their Focus Sash, so this turn they go for Follow Me, and then next turn they just activate the Policy and then go from there. Whimsicott's literally doing nothing for me right now. I led this to try to counter potential, like, Kyogre strategies, but Victini over Whimsicott here would have put me into an amazing position. That being said, there's no Victini on the field. So, let's switch into Reshiram here, and I'm actually just going to go for Leech Life. I'm not going to Dynamax on turn 1, because I don't expect to get knocked out here. And I'm concerned about Dynamaxing when there's the risk of them having Focus Sash on Indeedee. I think Sash here is very likely, honestly. Yep, there's Follow Me. You know, if I had like Moonblast there, I would have been willing to go for it. And then I'd actually probably be willing to Dynamax Genesect as well. But the lack of having offense on Whimsicott here hurts us significantly. Indeedee actually survives anyway. Okay. Ooh, but they just go for Flash Cannon. Okay, I'll take that. It means no Trick Room. It's a crit, that's fine. You expect Indeedee to go for another Follow Me. Now, sadly, Reshiram is faster than Genesect here. But I guess my opponent doesn't necessarily know that. If I can stall out Psychic Terrain, Whimsicott becomes valuable for Charm onto Calyrex, potentially. But that's basically it. I think the problem for me right now is, like, Calyrex is looking very scary if Trick Room goes up. I'm down for Fusion Flare into Magearna here. And then Iron Head into it as well. Gives me a flinch chance, a burn chance. Indeedee probably goes for Follow Me here. Oh. Kyogre? Okay, that makes sense. But the question is, are you Trick Rooming here, or are you Dynamaxing? If you're Trick Rooming, I'm not sure you even survive this double up. Okay, they're gonna... Yeah, not Dynamax here. So I'll get Fusion Flare off. I'm worried about this activating Weakness Policy now. That's really good damage, but I'm worried about Iron Head and actually not KOing. No policy on Magearna, though, okay. Oh, Genesect. You're so close. You're so close. Okay. That's okay, though. I think this is still doable. Depends on how fast their Kyogre is relative to us. That was kind of a bad... Like, if I had clicked Blue Flare there, I just didn't want to risk the miss. I figured we'd get the knockout there, and that ended up being a somewhat poor assumption on my end. Like, I have Sunny Day on Whimsicott, right? So it's really strong into what my opponent has right now. I could also just max Bug right now with Genesect, which is tempting, or just max the Reshiram. This turn is tough. I ran out of time there. I wasn't 100% sure what to do there. And they're faster with Kyogre as well, which is not good. Like, I wanted to max Genesect, but I was like, max Genesect just, like, probably gets two-shot by Max Geyser, which is a problem for me. I do have the Zekrom in the back, and I'll be able to change the weather here, but this was not a good turn for me. It depends on what their last one is, in my opinion. I think if it's Calyrex Ice Rider, it's looking kind of bad for me, because, like, Genesect needed to be the Dynamax option, but I wasn't sure when to max it in this matchup. But yeah, Victini plus Genesect would have been an amazing lead, because I would have been able to just like double up. Well, I guess then though they could just set up Trick Room and still be kind of weird for me. It's mainly just not getting the knockout on Magearna this last turn. And they go for Flare Cannon, fine. Okay. Oh, that's cool. I was wondering what the item on it was. It's White Herb. Okay, so we'll KO with Iron Head here, but the problem is Kyogre moves before Reshiram, which is not ideal for us. Yep. See if they targeted the Reshiram slot. No, it did go into Genesect. Okay. So I changed the weather, but that doesn't really accomplish anything for me. Because, like, it means their next Max Geyser at least will do a little bit less damage. But, like, if I had Leech Lifed into Kyogre, that would have been a better outcome. Doubling into Magearna is never the play there, but yeah, I kind of just ran out of time. Wasn't 100% sure what the right play was there. Maybe it was to switch Genesect out, honestly. 127, 119, 126. The problem here is I have to suspect... Like, both of these just get dunked on by Max Hailstorm right now. Which is really bad. And they have Calyrex. Oof. Okay, at least we know, though, that the Calyrex does not have wider... Okay, so it's weakness policy on the Calyrex, most likely, right? If you're my opponent, you can just Glacial Lance plus Geyser into Reshiram. How can I stop that? I really can't. I guess my best bet is hoping Helping Hand plus Max Flare KOs Calyrex in the rain, but I don't think that'll be the case. Or for some reason, Kyogre and Reshiram have speed tied this entire time, but I also don't think that will be the case. Yeah, I think Genesect needed to max in this game. The problem was I was facing so much offense between Kyogre and Calyrex, and then, like, if I'd actually maxed Genesect the turn Magearna ended up Dynamaxing, I probably would have, well, no, I wouldn't say I would have won the game from that position, because the problem then becomes that the Kyogre actually outspeeds the Genesect. If Trick Room is not up, right? But I had the tools to win this one. I think I really just needed to deny Trick Room, honestly, because Zekrom outside of Trick Room is amazing into my opponent's team, but in Trick Room is terrible, and I actually almost KO'd Calyrex there. Oh, that wasn't a crit either, so a slightly higher damage roll may have done it, but now I just lose to Glacial Lance. If we get that knockout there, it's actually maybe doable if, like, Zekrom can survive a Max Hailstorm from Kyogre. So, this is really close. Yeah, the problem was I just didn't, like, one, I didn't know how fast Kyogre was relative to us, and unfortunately was actually slower, which makes sense if you look at their team composition. And two, I didn't bring Victini, but, you know, like, you could look at my opponent's team, and, like, I think one very strong bluff is for the Kyogre to actually be, like, Choice Scarf, but your opponent's expected to be, like, bulky Assault Vest. You'd be, like, Specs Kyogre, Scarf Yveltal, and Tailwind, for example. Anyway, is there any world in which I win this? 2 turns of Trick Room. I guess, like, the one way I could win is if they threw and for some reason protected Calyrex. Because, like, I actually do have a double knockout in front of me here, but I shouldn't ever get it, but I'll play this turn out. Yeah, they just Glacial Lance. Like, Genesect was definitely, yeah. It looked really good in Team Preview. I just didn't know when to Dynamax it. Like, Whimsicott ended up being completely useless. In fact, it was actually more than useless. Like, it just dragged me down rather than even contribute anything. And so, yeah, it's scary in best of 1, but if you look at my opponent's team, like, it indexes pretty heavily on Magearna and Calyrex, but, you know, like, there's another world in which I just lead Victini, for example, and Genesect, and they, like, lead Yveltal Kyogre, and they go for, like, Snar Water Spout, and I just lose the game from there, right? So, it's pretty volatile. I think that's one of the weaknesses of Victini and Genesect. They just aren't exactly very strong into some of the most common Pokemon in the format, right? Like Kyogre, Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and so you can't bring them consistently and feel good with it all the time. But that's just how Pokemon is sometimes, right? Using Pokemon that are objectively a little bit worse, whether it be because of typing and stats, means that I want to say you always have an uphill battle ahead of you, but it means that you have to be a little bit more careful when you pick it, and then if you pick the wrong things into your opponent, it can snowball very heavily. But I'm just glad to at least bring out Genesect a bunch, and I think it was probably the best Pokemon in that matchup, but I didn't execute it as well as I could have. So, yeah. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, so thank you so much as always for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, and I'll see you all next time. All right, peace.